Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode I'm joined by co-host Chris Mueller.
We have covered Arnold Schwarzenegger here on the program a few different times now, actually, and we have been of the mutual opinion on every occasion that he is by far one of the biggest action stars in the history of cinema. And honestly, I think we'll have generations of people talking about him like we do John Wayne, or anyone else of that ilk. Maybe, I don't know, Charles Bronson, perhaps. You know, those kind of guys, Clint Eastwood, who are just hardcore, hard-boiled, or at least their characters are, right? And on screen, they are just no holds barred, get the job done. Heroes, yes, but at the same time, just straight out tough guys, do whatever needs to be done, right? So when it comes to Arnold, some of his biggest properties, some of the biggest action films of all time. One of them is Predator. Well, we're not exactly going to talk about that film here today. We'll probably reference it and mention it. But the subject at hand here today is Prey. So, yes, the Predator franchise is still with us. And I, for one, am glad to see it because it got a little exhausted, and we'll get into that. But man, did it get revitalized here. And I hope that we see more to come. Because, man, there's a lot of good stuff to cover here today. Let's get into it. Prey is a 2022 American science fiction action film in the Predator franchise. It is the fifth film in the mainline series and seventh in the overall franchise. How's about that? It is a prequel to the first four films being set in the northern Great Plains in 1719. The film was directed by Dan Trachtenberg and written by Patrick Allison. It stars an ensemble cast of characters, and it's going to be good. The budget is $65 million. This was a direct-to-Hulu film, distributed by Hulu and Disney Plus internationally, released July 21st, 2022 at the San Diego Comic-Con, and then later, United States release August 5th, 2022. Running time, 99 minutes. And that is your lowdown for Prey. So, Chris, it only took us a year to get here. We're finally here. I remember you had messaged me at one point and said, dude, have you seen Prey yet? I got to talk about it. And I'm like, no, I haven't seen it yet. I finally got around to watching it. And man, have I got thoughts. What did you think about this film when you first saw it? First of all, were you expecting anything since it's a Predator franchise? And number two, what were your overall opinions after you watched it?
I did not really try to go in with any expectations because the Predator franchise has been all over the place over the years.
Yeah.
But I will make a bold claim and say it's the best movie in the entire franchise.
Oh, that is very bold.
I personally think Prey is better than the original Predator on a lot of levels. The original Predator has a special place in a lot of people's hearts. It was a very unique movie when it came out, but it is also a very basic story. I think this movie kind of captures that one human against one superior alien force kind of vibe that the first movie had, but this one goes so much further to develop the character that we're watching. And I think that's where the strength of this movie came in, especially with the performance of the actress Amber Midhunter. She did a phenomenal job, and I think the movie just doesn't work without her.
Man, that is a hot and spicy take. What's cool about this, kids, is that Chris and I did not really discuss this at all. So I did not know you felt that way. So you said that you think the first Predator's basic. Do you think the twist of the alien itself is different for an action movie of that ilk, or do you feel like it's just as generic as anything else?
Well, what do you mean by a twist? Because they show a UFO crashing in the first scene, so we'd know it's an alien. If they had never included that scene, that movie would be tense until you discovered it was an alien. Having
That's
that
fair.
scene of Predator makes it an inferior movie, in my opinion, to what it should have been. It's
Interesting.
It's a minor complaint, but I'm telling you, if you take out that one part, it completely changes the first 45, 50 minutes of Predator.
Man, that's a hot take, and I can't say that I'm not here for it. Well, what I meant was basically a twist in as much as how many times had we seen like an action flick? I mean, I guess you could say Aliens. There's a lot of stuff with Aliens and Predator over the years too. But I guess that's where I was going with it, was that in terms of an Arnold film, you know, being set in the real world and not on Mars or something like that. But no, dude, I totally get what you're saying. And you're right. If you take that scene out, it is a totally different film. I got to agree with you there.
It's one of those things where, like, it often happens in a movie trailer too, where a trailer will ruin a surprise that would have made the movie different. Terminator 2, another Arnold movie, for example.
Yeah.
If you did not watch the trailer going into that movie, you did not know that Arnold was a good guy until he tells John to get down in the hallway and shoots at the T-1000. Up until then, you think he's hunting John, but the trailer ruined it, because the trailer literally has a line that's like, he's back, but this time he's a good guy. And it's like, oh, well, you totally just blew James Cameron's entire reveal. And he was pissed. Like, if you talk to James Cameron about that in an interview or something, he will go off about like how it completely ruined the marketing for the movie.
Wow. You know, that makes a lot of sense. By the way, kids, both Terminator 1 and 2 are in the archives of the 6M podcast. Please go enjoy. And as far as I'm concerned, those are the only 2 Terminator films ever made. We established that here, Chris, just for your own personal knowledge. They never made any more. At least that's all we're going to recognize here anyway. You're right, man. That did kill it. And, you know, I've told this story here before about people ruining films for you, but not necessarily a studio. Like the secret of The Sixth Sense, the twist in that movie was saved. And like of course, the previews, the trailers never gave anything away. And then I had mentioned at the time when it was in theaters that I hadn't seen it. And a friend of mine's asking me, have you seen it yet? And I'm like, no. And spoiler alert, kids, earmuffs, if you haven't seen it for whatever reason. I said, no, I haven't seen it yet. Oh, he goes, oh, it's really good. The guy's dead. And I'm like, excuse me? So, dude, I went into Sixth Sense completely knowing the entire film.
Yeah, that's a pain. And there was another movie recently where something wasn't revealed in any of the not movie, TV show. The Mandalorian. No Baby Yoda in any promo material leading up to that show. No merchandise was made, so it didn't get leaked. Like, when a studio understands that there's a reveal that is important to the story being told, then it goes a long way towards making it that much more enjoyable. Because remember how crazy everybody was going at the end? Like, oh my God, it's a Baby Yoda. Look at that. Like, nobody knew it was coming. If they had put that thing all over the ads, people would have been like, oh, well, we're going to go watch the Baby Yoda show? It never would have been the Mandalorian show.
Of course. Yeah, you're right, man. It was, I remember watching the first episode of that show and realizing what was going on. I was like, oh my God, what's this? You know, crazy.
And I know you haven't seen it yet, but so I won't give you any spoilery things, but I will say that Barbie did a lot to hold back on marketing for things that happen in the movie that you have no idea are going to happen.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
God, that movie completely exploded.
Yeah, and I actually really like it. So after you see it, we'll talk about Barbie too, because I think it's great.
Awesome.
But
well,
back to...
No, yeah. We get sidetracked all the time. It's all good.
Different female-led franchise.
Oh, speaking of female-led, there are some, and I'll use the word twist again, but I mean it in terms of, you know, the action genre or whatever. I love that it's a female lead here. I love that, and we've already mentioned her, so we'll get into it. Amber Midhunter. She plays a young Comanche warrior named Naru. And dude, she is fantastic. First of all, I appreciate it. I don't mind reading a film. It doesn't bother me like it does some other folks. But I appreciated that this was not subtitled the entire way. That's a trick they've used in the movie where the plot to kill Hitler, they did it there, and they've done it in other films. I think the new Joaquin Phoenix Napoleon film is all in English, and they're all speaking regular accents, and no one's trying to duplicate a French accent, just for the sake of the audience being able to, get into this. So I respected the fact that none of this is subtitled. Dude, she is fantastic here, man, and she's very believable. And I want to get to the end when we get to the end, but the end is effing great. The whole fight scene of the third act is just something to behold. I mean, she's perfect in this film, dude.
Yeah, it was incredible casting, and the fact that they went out of their way to not only cast indigenous actors to play these roles, but to include so much of their language and to accurately portray parts of their culture, I think went a long way towards making this movie just more viable in general, because when you show respect to that kind of culture, then not only are they going to be on board with it, but you have people from other cultures being like, oh, like Hollywood's actually doing a good job with this. Maybe they'll do that with my culture next. Like, I just think that the way that they did this movie was so great. And the fact that it never got to theaters is such a shame, because watching a movie like this on the big screen would have been amazing.
It would have been totally right.
This movie is gorgeous. Like,
it
the
is.
cinematography, like all of the scenes that they show, just these big, wide open landscapes look amazing. They picked beautiful filming locations. All of the sets that are like, not sets, but like the stuff they built for the little tribe's village, it all just looked so perfect and beautiful. And they really went out of their way to like make this a good looking movie, which is always great.
100%. Cinematography here by Dana Gonzalez, who is an American director and cinematographer from LA. Some of the credits include Empire State, Snitch, Greenland, Centurion, the upcoming Toxic Avenger reboot, which, we'll see about that. The Handmaid's Tale, Fargo. So that, pretty good. Just some of the credits are not too bad. You're right. The film is gorgeous. The effects are fantastic. If it had a big screen debut, it would have been great. We also have to say here that the main character also, she appeared in Legion. Legion is a messed up show, dude, but I really enjoyed it. Did you ever watch it?
Not all the way through. I think I made it through season 2.
It's a lot. It's a lot, man. Like you got to pack a lunch and pitch a tent and really stay with it, man, because it just goes everywhere. And sometimes you find yourself going back and trying to remember what happened and trying to piece things together. It's a mind. It'll screw with your head, put it that way.
And it's a show you have to pay 100% of attention to. You can't really just be like scrolling on your phone while watching it, or you're going to miss really important things.
Yeah, 100%. So if you got time to invest, kids, I recommend it. It's not a bad flip, not a bad show. But yeah, she's great here, man. Dakota Beavers as Taby. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Nehru's brother and a skilled hunter. By the way, he is freaking great. I mean, first of all, he's in a fantastic shape, of course.
But he looks realistic. Like,
yes.
They didn't cast somebody with giant muscles and a six-pack. Like, he looks like a lean hunter who's not like the strongest guy in the world, clearly, but could probably outrun you. Like,
yeah.
I think it was really smart the way that they cast people who didn't look out of place.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Apparently, the script for this movie claims that Sonny from the original Predator was a reincarnation of Taby, whatever his name is.
Yeah, that's some nice retrofitting, I guess, if we have to. By the way, I love Sonny Landham. He is so good in that movie, dude.
I think it's funny that he got super jacked knowing he was going to be in that movie with all those guys, and then mosquitoes ate him up so bad that they were like, dude, we need you to wear a shirt on screen. So he's out there with Carl Weathers, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jesse Ventura, and like they're all looking jacked and pumping weights, and he's over there like, I gotta wear a shirt because of bug bites. Like, felt so bad for him. But Yeah, like trying to tie him back to that original movie, like it makes sense because that movie showed him being very proud of his heritage and things like that. Granted, it was the 80s, he was written as a stereotype, but like it wasn't the worst stereotype portrayal of that, so it's not necessarily as bad, I guess. I don't know. I think him and Amber did a great job playing off each other as brother and sister. Like it felt like a very believable sibling relationship.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell they're close, but you can also tell that he's the alpha for sure, but that she's very much, I'm going to use the word tomboy and it doesn't sound right. She wants to be out with the warriors. She wants to be out with the hunters. And, you know, she's learning, of course, and she's that axe, dude. She's very good with that axe, as we find out in the third act that we've been teasing like crazy.
Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast, tackles one of the most popular and critically acclaimed series of our time, bringing together three hosts from two different parts of the world. Two Nations reviews all 3 seasons of Ted Lasso, 34 episodes total, with wrap-up episodes coming at the end of each season. Follow the show on social media at Two Nations Pod, and be sure to subscribe and download on all the major platforms. Just look us up, Two Nations Podcast.
But, you know, you're right. Their relationship is great, man. She is... Yeah, the combo of him and her together are excellent.
And it makes his death like mean that much more in the movie too.
Yeah.
But I like how he was not quite as hard on her as some of the other warriors that were walking around like looking down on her.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, you know, this is a story we've seen a million times. Like it's almost a Joan of Arc story, right? You have a woman who doesn't want to fall into the role that society has tried to give her. She wants to do something that she feels she's capable of, and the story of the movie is kind of just her not only realizing that she is, but like that she's capable of a lot more than that, because clearly taking out a predator is probably a lot harder than just going and hunting a deer. You know what I mean? So
right.
So, like, she comes back to that village holding that predator's hand, and she's, like, the most badass person on the planet in that moment. Like, that was such a good moment at the end of the movie when she comes back with the head.
Oh, so good. And she is, yeah. I mean, everything pays off. And, like, you don't know what kind of a threat she's going to be really to anybody. It's obvious she can take care of herself. It's obvious that the other warriors are maybe not looking down on her, but it's very much a male-dominated, I guess I'll use the word tribe.
Historically, that was the way those tribes were.
Sure.
Like, it's cool that they went out of their way to show everything being accurate while also telling the story of a young girl who probably did things that most young girls weren't able to actually do in that time without getting punished in some way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Also, the old lady playing her grandma was great.
Oh, she's great, isn't she? She is...
The whole cast are great.
Oh, yeah. Michelle Thrush as Ruka, Naru, and Taby's mother.
Yeah. Or was the old lady supposed to be the mother? Maybe I'm confusing it.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
But I also want to point something out before either of us forgets to mention it.
Mm-hmm.
How great is it that the dog lives? Because
so glad.
I cannot tell you how scared I was as soon as I'm like, oh no, she has a best friend who's a dog. That dog is not making it out of this movie.
Yeah.
And the dog lives, and I'm like, you know what? Thank God, because like, how many movies have we seen where they use it? Like, John Wick is literally built on the premise of a dude being sad that he lost his puppy. Like, killing an animal is such a cheap way to elicit sympathy from a crowd for a character.
Mm.
I know that in some stories it might feel like, oh, that's the only way they could have done what they need to do to get the character's motivation, whatever. But it's also a crutch that they lean on, because they know that people feel attached to animals more so than humans a lot of time. Like, a lot of people will tell you, like, I like my dog better than I like any human on this planet, you know? And it's because the dog doesn't talk back to them. So just having the dog make it to the end of the movie made me so happy.
Well, plus, you know, the dog's loyal, doesn't leave you behind. You're the only thing he cares about. So, yeah, that's pretty cool, too.
And it was a cool dog, too. It was like some kind of breed that I wasn't familiar with that apparently was used by tribes back then for the exact purpose shown. So, yeah, another, like, just way that they tried to be very accurate.
I love when historical accuracy means something. I mean, it's not enough to get costuming right. I think when they go that granular with the details, I'm always a fan of that.
For
We
sure.
also obviously have to mention Dane DeLegro, I think. He is the Predator in The Suit. He is American actor and former basketball player. Who would have thunk it? Played for 8 seasons for teams in Italy and Israel, and resides in L.A. So yeah, he's the right height, the right build. Everything's great. I believe it was Kevin Peter Hall was the original Predator in the Arnold film, and I think in the parts 2 and 3, I believe. And Kevin Peter Hall is also he was also Harry in Harry and the Hendersons.
Wow.
Big guy. Yeah.
Wait, the movie or the show?
The movie. He passed away fairly young, and suddenly my brain's working overtime. His wife was also Marla Gibbs' best friend on 227
Jeez.
in real life. Yeah, dude, suddenly my wheels are spinning. I can't remember the actress's name.
Hollywood is a small town. People
It's true.
don't realize that like a lot of these people are related in some way or another.
Yeah, dude, he died age 35. Insanely freaking young. Insanely young. He was 7'2".
Did he have what's it called? The term is like giantism, but that's not the medical term. That's the one that people just know it as, like the same thing that Andre had and
It's
that
true.
Big Show had fixed. Like, was that it? Do you know?
I don't think so. It doesn't look that way.
I can't remember what the name of the condition is, but I know Big Show had, like, I think it might have been his pituitary gland,
Mhm.
or there's something that they can do to actually like stall the negative effects and give you like a full life.
Mhm.
I just don't remember what it's called.
He was actually, he was also Harry and Harry and Henderson's show. There you go.
Oh, so he was the same, and he was doing it in both.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Kevin Peter Hall. Same. Yeah. I remember seeing interviews with him. Just seemed like a really, really nice guy, and loved what he did. Yeah. He unfortunately died he contracted HIV from a blood transfusion during surgery.
Oh God.
Like, how does that happen? What? Like, dude.
Yeah, you hear
Insane.
stuff like that once in a while. Ugh.
Yeah, I know, right? So yeah, he as we said, the guy that takes over for him gets the job done. And I'll say this as a side note. I love that every time we see a Predator in these films, he's a little bit different. Like, of course, they're not all going to be clones of each other, but you can tell, like, the garb they're wearing, the skin color, the hair, the faces are always a little bit different. Like, they're not exactly cookie cutter aliens. Like like the Aliens franchise, they're just like a bunch of cockroaches, right? You can't really, no one has a personality. Like, but with the Predators, you get the feeling that each one is, I don't want to say their own person, but you know what I mean? They're like individuals, in other words.
Well, did you see the Predator movie with Adrian Brody? Like, just called Predators?
I do not think I watched that one. No.
That one tried really hard to kind of capture the feeling of the first one by being another group in a jungle kind of situation, but they were on an alien planet.
Oh.
So, like, they were all taken from Earth and dropped in an alien planet to be hunted. In that movie, they actually established that the Predators are very unique, and one of them is, like, on the outs with the group and sort of helps the humans, almost.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, they do give them different motivations and personalities throughout the time. Like remember Predator 2 at the end when they hand Danny Glover the gun? Like,
Yeah.
That guy was probably their leader. Like, you could tell he had, like, a different kind of attitude than the one that Danny Glover just killed.
Sure. Yeah, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there an alien skull on the ship in that film too, like in the background?
I believe so. There was a bunch of little Easter eggs. Like, I think there might have even been a reference to Blade Runner in that movie somehow.
I keep mentioning aliens. I don't mean to, but man, it almost seems like they couldn't wait to put these two franchises together. And it happened first in the comics for Dark Horse Comics. And man, when the crossover started happening in the books, it kind of became a really big deal. I mean, eventually, I believe inspired the film crossovers. Were you ever into the Aliens franchise, by the way?
I mean, I enjoy the first two.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I really never paid attention.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I saw Alien versus Predator, but I don't even know if the Alien franchise counts that movie. Like, it's all weird how it is. And I know that somebody is trying to do something with the Alien franchise right now, and, Sigourney Weaver may or may not have something to do with it. We'll figure that out eventually. But, yeah, the Alien one didn't quite appeal to me as much as Predator did, even though I think a lot of the Predator movies are just as bad.
Yeah. Well, when they have something that makes money, they just keep choking the life out of it to make as many dollars as they can. What I like about the idea of the Predator franchise, what I like about the idea of the Predators as villains to begin with, yes, they're villains, yes, they're killers, but it's not done out of they're not getting revenge on anybody. They don't care about world domination. They're not here to you know what I mean? And none of that matters. They're hunting. That's what they're doing. They're hunting for sport. And I could go off into a rant about how rednecks especially shouldn't mind these villains because, hey, hunting for sport. You know what I mean? So whatever, man. But, and plus I like the fact that they could land anywhere at any time. It doesn't have to be Earth. It could be other planets. And it doesn't have to be today. It could be 1,000,000 years ago. I love that. And I love that this movie is set in the time that it's set in. Dude, to me, that is an evergreen concept. You could keep making these Predator made for streamers or whatever, or big budget film release, whatever you want to do. And dude, put these guys in any time frame you want and it'll still work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I do know that I think there's some kind of established thing where like the Predators come here every 20 years or something like that.
Mm.
So I know that the director of this movie had talked about like having talks with Hulu, Fox, whatever, about doing a sequel set 20 years later with the same character. But like, obviously they'd have to age the actress up a little bit. They're not going to wait 20 years to make the movie.
Sure.
But it would be like, her basically running the tribe and then a new Predator shows up. And that would probably be how they would explain that the Predators got the gun back. Because the gun that she has at the end of this movie is the one that's presented to Danny Glover.
Oh,
the one she
nice.
takes from the French guy.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that French guy was like apparently in a bunch of the comic books that they made for Predator.
Right.
So like he's an important character in the lore or something. But yeah, that pistol she takes at the end is supposed to be the exact one Danny Glover gets. I think they even show the same inscription, just so you know that.
Oh, that's very nice. That is so cool. Again, I love connective tissue, man. I love when guys care enough to go back and retro. And I use the word retro, but it's not an uncomfortable fit. It makes sense. You know what I mean? They're just like tying things together.
Sure. And it's great to have that little detail because you are going to have fans of the franchise that are diehards who want to feel like this is connected to the movies they already like. So, yeah, tying it in like that is great. But like going back to what you were saying earlier about like the Predators all kind of looking and feeling different. The thing I liked about this is like his technology was a lot more primitive than what we were seeing in the Schwarzenegger movie. Did you notice that?
That's a good call. Good call.
Like his mask, it doesn't look all mechanical. It looks like a freaking skull from something.
It does. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they kind of went out of their way to be like, okay, so if it's 200 years earlier or whatever we're saying this is, then we got to regress the Predator technology a little bit as well. And maybe they're going to like go back to that in the next movie and be like, okay, so since then they've developed this one extra thing now that she has to deal with that she didn't have to deal with before.
That's fair. And, really, I guess the idea could be, hey, look, just because we've mastered space travel does not mean that we are fully evolved in terms of clothing. I mean, we were sailing the world before we invented a lot of other things. So, I mean, that kind of makes a lot of sense.
Well, right. Like we didn't have a zipper before we had a map of the globe, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good pull. Yeah, I respect that, man. That's pretty cool. The director here, we got to mention that his directorial debut was 10 Cloverfield Lane. So that's a pretty high-profile project for a first-time feature film director. He's also directed an episode of Black Mirror and of The Boys, and upcoming of the new season of Stranger Things. So he's he's
right.
yes.
Okay.
Critically acclaimed. And speaking of acclaimed, this movie is acclaimed, buddy, because it's been nominated for all kinds of things and upcoming. And as a point that this episode, kids, will air before the Emmy Awards, which take place in September of 2023. Full disclosure. But it's been nominated for Emmy Awards for Outstanding Director for Limited or Anthology Series or Movie, Outstanding Writing for Limited or Anthology Series or Movie. Man, there's a list of things. It did win some awards here and there.
Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you.
I love that it's so well received because, man, there's not a whole lot that I can find wrong with this. I don't mean to bounce from the cast that soon, but the plot of this, again, Chris, this idea that they can land anytime they want to, and it just so happens that this one lands amongst a Comanche tribe of not killers, but hunters, warriors who are protecting their families. I mean, Predator picked sort of the wrong place to land. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I don't know if anybody I've talked to about this movie didn't really like it. Like it seems almost universally at least liked, if not loved.
Yeah, for sure. There's so much here going on, man. And let's see, special effects. The special effects are good. I have no issue with it, but I love that really the only special effects you're getting in the Predator films are the 3D, like the sonar, the radar, I guess I'll call it, the 3D vision, which is freaking great. It matches very well. I love how it looks original to what we saw in the first Predator film. And then you'll have moments of something's floating in midair, and then, of course, he's cloaked and he's moving through the jungle or through the forest. But really, Chris, that's it, apart from lasers coming out of his weapons. And most of the other things you see are real-world effects. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think the like glowing green blood they used might have been a little digitally enhanced, but I do believe they were just using some kind of like iridescent liquid.
Yeah, that's nice too. I love that it, I don't know, it doesn't have to look real. I mean, you're talking to a guy that loves the MCU, and Thanos didn't really land here with a bunch of aliens, kids. Spoiler alert. But man, that movie looks so good. Endgame just looks phenomenal. So I'm a sucker for green screen when it's done well. I'll put it that way. But I do love the practical real world effects here, man. What do you think about the story here? I mean, does everything work for you? Is anything not clicking for you? Did you bump into anything at all in terms of the story itself?
No, not really, because the story was not like overly complicated. It just, it was like I said, it was a Joan of Arc story, kind of, young woman wants to break out of the gender roles, but there's this predator who's going to make things very difficult on everybody. It really didn't have like plot holes that I could find or anything, because there wasn't much of a plot to put a hole in.
Oh, that's true.
But I mean that in a good way. Like, not all movies have to be a bunch of convoluted turns and twists and all that. Like, sometimes a simple story is the best way to do something, especially when you're relying so much on the other things to sell the movie, like the action and the way it looks.
Mm-hmm. Dude, the scene where she's fighting with her brother and they're sort of back to back and they're fighting against, the Predator and everything. Dude, that is one of the best scenes in this franchise, this entire franchise, dude. I really enjoyed those moments.
Yeah, and then her, like, wiping the Predator blood on her face as war paint was a nice little moment for her, but that guttural scream that she lets out after she kills the Predator, that was a really powerful moment in the movie.
And, dude, I'll say this. I love that we did not, at the end, get this, Dude, let's be honest. She had an easier time with this thing than Arnold did. But to be fair, she had more time technically to observe and more time to put things together than Arnold did. But like, dude, he basically couldn't touch her in this third act. I was knocked out by that. Like, I mean, it could have went either way, of course. He's a murderous hunter, alien hunter with all this technology. Could have killed her technically anytime he wanted to, but you know, dude, he was never really, I mean, he was in the fight, but I don't know, dude. I felt like when she finally gets him, I'm like, is that it? I mean, I wasn't disappointed, but I'm like, it's so cool that they went that route instead of making it's a life and death struggle and it's down to the last second and, you know, is she going to get killed? It didn't feel that way to me at all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think maybe the reason they can get away with that is in the first movie, Arnold was in an unfamiliar environment. Like, yeah, he was a soldier, but that was a jungle he'd never been in. This is her home. Like, those woods are her hunting ground, and she had the home field advantage. So I think that actually goes a long way towards, like, selling that part of the story to me.
Great freaking pull. I love that. Dude, that's top notch. I can't top that. That's really, really good. Well said. Dude, what? All right. Well, I'm trying to formulate this question for you. In terms of where you could drop a Predator that would make for an interesting film or make for an exciting movie, where's another great location? Where's another point in history? I mean, where do you think it would make sense? I mean, it doesn't have to be like, I don't know, during the time of the dinosaurs, maybe, I don't know, or maybe in the future of the planet. I don't know, dude. Like, I'm just trying to think in my head of what other time frame could you drop him in or drop one in and it'd be just as interesting of a story, man. What do you think?
I mean, I think there's a lot if you're going older timelines. So, like, you could drop a Predator into the jungle with the Incas and the Mayans. You could drop a Predator near the Great Wall of China when they're building it, like 1,000 years ago or whenever they were mostly doing it. I mean, it's kind of just the limits of the imagination are really the only limits, you know? Like, there's inhabited places that they could do it. Like, oh my God, what if they made it where a Predator was Jack the Ripper? Like, that's why they never found him, because he was a freaking alien. You know, like, there's so many different things they could put him into and, like, almost tie him into our actual history, too.
That's really good. Yeah, like, never saw him, yeah.
Yeah, he's just prowling the streets of London all cloaked. He'll come uncloaked, slash a woman real quick, go back into hiding, and then, like, the movie we see is about some hero tracking him down and killing him, but, like, the headlines are never going to mention that Jack the Ripper was actually an alien, because, you know, how can they?
How can they? Who would believe it? Yeah.
Right.
That is some interesting stuff, too, by the way, if you ever go down that rabbit hole. Like, the fact that, you know, all the infamous series of murders that were never solved, which is mind-blowing to me. Like, I think they've got a pretty good idea on who they believe it was, but then there'll be someone else that has just as good of a theory about somebody else. So you can never tell, man. That kind of stuff blows my mind, how we still don't have answers to questions that are that big. You know what I mean?
Right. And then there's also, like, you could drop him into you could drop a Predator into feudal Japan and have him fighting with some samurai or something, like.
Ooh.
Or like the middle of the African jungle, like the Congo or something. Like, there's a million places you could do this in a million different ways. And even present day, like, there's still a lot of interesting things you could do with Predator now, even though they've tried and failed. But I do think that these, like, stories of one alien versus a group or one person, that's where Predator's bread and butter is. Once you start trying to mix in the Predator society and laws and multiple Predators and everything, it gets too convoluted. Like, the reason the original movie was so well received is because it was a simple, tense story. And that's what this one was too.
Yeah, keep it simple, right? Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, when you start talking more than one ship and they're in space, that becomes, it's all right. It's not that it's not doable, but it becomes a different kind of movie. You know what I mean?
Right. Even the one with Adrian Brody did a decent job of that until later, when you find out that there's, like, a Predator who's not part of the group and then there's actually a bunch of them. But yeah, I think that when you just have one Predator against a small force, like that's where the tension lies, and that's where it
Right.
gets really good.
Yeah, that's fair. So we talked about them crossing over with the Aliens franchise. What other franchise do you think would be good to see Predator sort of squaring up with, man? Wonder what else they could do if they were so inclined. What would be a fun crossover?
Like another Alien type franchise, you mean, like with
Uh,
aliens, or just in general?
Maybe in general. You know what I mean?
Because I mean, at this point, put a Predator in Fast and Furious and have Dom hit it with a car. Like, I don't care. Those movies are insane anyway.
Yeah.
You could tie over Predator to a lot of other franchises, especially like you think about it. I don't want to see this, but you think about a franchise like Jurassic Park, where you're already dealing with science fiction and mysteries and crazy creatures. Like, what if a Predator shows up and then it's like all of a sudden, oh wait, I gotta fight a T-Rex? What the hell? Like, all of a sudden, Predator is the guy you're following, and he's fighting a bunch of dinosaurs. Like, that could be fun too. Or like you said, just put him back in the Cretaceous area where the dinosaurs are actually running around.
My vote would be a Jason Statham film so he could roundhouse kick him in the face.
I mean, he's about to roundhouse kick a frickin' Meg in the face, isn't that enough? In Meg 2? My God.
I'm telling you, if he doesn't roundhouse kick a shark, I don't know what we're doing with our lives here. I don't understand what we're doing.
Have you ever heard anything about the Meg books?
These are based on books? I had no idea.
They're like those airport novels that are just really cheesy. Like, I think the cover of the first one literally has a Meg biting a T-Rex on the beach,
Oh my
like they show in the
God.
trailer of number 2. But so in the first book, like, the Meg movie is not even close to being as crazy as what is in the book. Apparently in the book, Jason Statham's character intentionally gets swallowed so he can cut his way out of the shark with a knife. That's how he kills him.
Well, I mean, if you're going to kill a shark, best way to do is just get swallowed. That's what?
Part of me is really hoping that they wanted to put that in the movie, and then they saw the scene with Drax in Guardians 2 where he gets swallowed by that alien and is trying to cut his way out, and they're like, somebody already did it. Change the ending.
Well, let's don't forget Tommy Lee Jones did it in Men in Black as well.
Oh gosh, that's right. But we never really see him in the alien for too much, do we? They kind of show him like just kind of being like digested for a second, right?
Yes, that's true.
I can't remember. The Men in Black movies, like other than the first one, I haven't watched 2 and 3 too many times.
First one's classic, but 2 and 3 are, ugh. 3 is highly forgettable.
Men in Black and the Predator. Turn it into a comedy.
And it would make sense because Predator is an alien.
Exactly.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
It'd be like we see the beginning of the movie and there's a Predator like fighting some dude. And then a Men in Black shows up and he's like, what did we tell you? You got to register when you get here, man.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, sorry, here's my passport.
Predator versus Deadpool, that might be fun.
I mean, there's literally been a Predator versus Batman comic book.
That's true. Pretty good, actually, by the way. There was a short fan film. If you've never seen it, you should go out of your way to see it. It's excellent.
I did, yeah.
So good.
But yeah, I mean, as far as Prey goes, man, like, I was shocked at how much I enjoyed this movie for a straight to streaming kind of thing. Like, they really should have put this in movie theaters and given it a shot.
100%. And honestly, like, talk about breathing new life into a franchise. Like, you know, the franchise had gone quiet for a bit, I believe. I don't know when the last time was that something had happened. Let's see here. Good question. When's the last time something had happened here? But now there's new life breathed into it. And it's like, well, anything can happen at this point. Predator Hunting Grounds was 2020. So not that much time in between. That was actually a video game, which looks pretty cool. Concrete Jungle was 2005.
From what I understand, that video game was a big disappointment.
Seriously, wow.
Because I believe it's one of those games where like one person is a predator and the other players are people trying to kill him, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I think I heard that the mechanics for the player who gets to be the predator were like really broken.
Oh, wow.
Like it was either way too hard to be the predator or way too easy. I forget which one it was.
Interesting. Well, the film you were referencing earlier, actually, this is not the one with Brody. The film I'm looking at is just called The Predator, which came out in 2018.
Is that the one with Key from Key and Peele?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's the one that I'm thinking of, where I'm like, they tried to go too far with the story and integrating. Like, there's a thing in that movie where they imply that a kid with autism is like actually super evolved and is like communicating with the predators or something. It just got so convoluted, and
I mean, A for effort, but
and they tried to introduce like a super predator in that movie. It was big time weird.
wow. So the one with Brody is 2010. My God, has it been that long?
Yeah.
Jeez. Predators, yeah, 2010. My goodness. Yeah, lots done here, man. Hey, Tom Clark here for Tom Clark's Main Event, and if you are not subscribed, you're doing life wrong. Going strong since 2014 with over 300 episodes and a variety of guests that include Randy Orton, The Big Show, Rob Van Dam, and a lot more. Check us out on all the major platforms, including YouTube at Boink Studios. Subscribe today, Tom Clark's Main Event. Some pretty big names attached to this, too. That Predator movie we were just talking about was actually directed by Shane Black, who was in the first Predator film.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people were like hopeful, because they're like, oh, well, he wrote the first one, so this will be good too. But Shane Black did punch up on the first movie. He didn't write the original script. He came in and was like, I'm pretty sure the director literally cast him in the movie just so he could have him on site to do script adjustments when needed.
Yeah.
But because that's why you have like, why is that one dude so much skinnier than all these other soldiers? Like, because it's Shane Black and he's not.
Right.
But like, yeah. So when this movie came out, a lot of people were like, oh, maybe this will be a return to form for Predator. And then when it wasn't, I think a lot of people gave up on the franchise.
Dude, his credits are effing insane. He was a writer on Lethal Weapon 2, The Last Boy Scout, Last Action Hero, Long Kiss Goodnight, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Iron Man 3, wrote and directed The Nice Guys and The Predator. Nice Guys is a really fun flick, by the way.
So is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Shane Black is good, but like not everything a good person makes is going to be good, you know? Like,
that's fair. Steven
Spielberg even thinks Hook is bad.
Hook is bad. I'm sorry. I do not have a soft place in my heart for Hook, and I long live Robin Williams, but I am not a fan of that flick, dude.
Didn't think I'd have to block Tom by coming on a podcast here today.
I'm just not, man. Like when Hook was in theaters, I was not a kid. I mean, it just didn't strike me the way it struck, I guess, guys younger than me at the time. It never connected with me, man. I just, you know what I mean?
That's how I am about things that have come out since I've been an adult too. Like, I'm never going to have a soft spot in my heart for the Hunger Games movies, even though there's a generation of people that like love them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. I know Hook is a weird movie for a lot of people. I love it, but like Steven Spielberg has talked about how he's like, I was going through a divorce. That movie's so weird.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I get that. Yeah, I'm like that with other things as well. Well, this flick definitely is getting the job done, man. I'm a big fan of this movie. And again, kids, we don't mean to get sidetracked here, but honestly, as Chris pointed out earlier, the plot here is so simple that you could probably cover this film in a 30-minute pod and be done, honestly, if you didn't go down these other side avenues. But that's not a bad thing at all. Like, keep it simple, stupid. You know what I mean?
And the fact that it's a movie that's under 100 minutes and is so good too is kind of a rarity these days, because a lot of the 90 to 100 minute movies that come out are like the B action movies that go straight to, Tubi.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the big movies, they try to go for 2.5, sometimes 3 hours now. Like, I guess Oppenheimer is really long. Even Barbie is like a 2+ hour movie. So this one being just a nice compact story that you can watch in less than an hour and 45 minutes, like, it's great.
Yeah. We will note here that this film began development during the production of the prior Predator film called The Predator, as we just referenced, in 2018. They were discussing it then, and it began then. In December 2019, the film was initially under wraps, going by the name of Skulls. Hollywood's can be cheeky with that because they don't want to let people know what they're working on, so they'll just give it a phony name, hence Blue Harvest for the original Star Wars. So yeah.
I listened to a podcast where it's become a running joke where the guy puts in a fake bit of trivia about every movie having the secret name of Blue Harvest.
That's fun. So yeah, this was supposed to be the fifth film, fifth installment of the Predator franchise. Same creative team working on the film, was not expected to correlate to the events of the prior installment. And then of course things happen, time passes by, things get moved. And then we get to the point where we are, let's see. And there's mention here of Kevin Peter Hall, as we said earlier. Kevin Peter Hall's WWF 1987 wrestler standoff type of thing. I don't recall Kevin Peter Hall having a WWF appearance. Unless I'm blanking on that.
Does it say like what happened?
No. But now that's going to have to be something I go look up because I had no idea. This filming this movie, kid, was Calgary, Alberta, Canada, which makes a lot of sense, Chris. I mean, wide open wilderness, beautiful countryside. I mean, freaking great. Primarily in the Stoney Nakoda First Nation land of Canada. So there you go. About 45 minutes outside the city.
Yeah, I remember hearing that it was. I mean, and a lot of things are filmed in Canada when they need those big open landscapes, you know.
Oh yeah, good call. Yeah.
Like Canada, so I just recently found out, I thought there were more people in Canada. There's only 35 million people, and apparently a very, very large percentage live within 100 miles of the border.
Wow.
There's just a lot of open space up there.
I have never been up there, honestly.
Yeah.
Never been.
I spent 30 seconds in Canada, but that's a story for another day.
Till they turned me back at the border. Yeah.
It's literally what happened.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Speaking of historical accuracy, as we mentioned before, there are apparently during the film's production, the production team were given binders of reference material, and they wanted to create a period accurate scene and where everything's fitting in that would be historically accurate to the times. And again, I love that idea where everything sort of fits in together. Yeah, this is good stuff, man. Let's see. The Comanche characters' clothing, village setting, and hunting lifestyle depicted in the film is historically accurate, along with the depiction of the French trappers as hostile towards the Comanche. Yeah, really great stuff here, man. All right, so let's say you're the guy calling the shots for a sequel. What do you do for the sequel to this?
I go with the idea that Dan Trachtenberg had, like 20 years in the future, same tribe, same woman, just a different predator and a different fight. And maybe in this one, she's got like a daughter of her own that she's trying to raise to be a hunter. And then she has to, you know, protect her from the predator or whatever. Like there's a million different directions you could go.
That's a good call. And honestly, what I would love to see, if that happens, I would love to see the main character not like be scared of her own shadow, but like she's smart enough to understand if this one was here, could there be more? Like maybe she's very, very overprotective of her daughter more so than she maybe needs to be.
Maybe she's been preparing for the return this whole time.
Yes.
And then when it finally happens, she's like, see, I told you guys. Like,
yeah, no one listens to me.
You got to put a scene in the movie where like people doubt that what happened to her happened to her. Like so long has passed that people are like, you're exaggerating, you're making things up, it's not as bad as you say. And then they witness it for real and they're like, oh wait, no, she was right, we need to help. Like
that is excellent, dude, because no one survived except her, right? So no one technically saw anything,
and all she had was the head. So
yeah.
Yes, they know she killed it, but like they don't know the fight that she went through. Even if she tells them, they might not believe her, especially some of the men that might not want to bow to a woman being the head of the tribe to begin with.
That's fair. Man, I'm excited for a sequel now. I wasn't even really thinking about it till we did this.
You think that they need to take the opportunity because this movie was so well liked that like you got to capitalize on that, and Hollywood loves to capitalize on franchises. So
that's fair. Yeah. Jeez, that's a great idea. I'm all for that. Well, kids, there you have it, I believe. That is Prey. Lots of backstory here with the Predator franchise. We hope we didn't discount you from checking them out. Look, make your own decisions. We'll have thoughts and feelings here on the 6M about a variety of different topics. And just when you think that you couldn't hate a movie more, I guarantee you'll meet someone that likes it. It's just how this stuff goes, man. Everything is subjective. It's whatever your taste is, whatever you enjoy watching. So for all I know, Predator 3 might be your favorite movie of all time. I'm not going to laugh at that. It is what it is. But I don't know if I agree with you, Chris, that this beats the first, because I do have a connection to the first movie because it was just one of my all-time favorite films when it was released. But I do agree that this movie absolutely, for me at least, is a close 1.5. And it absolutely has just set this franchise back up for something fun in the future. Should the next movie be on the big screen, or should they just stick to streaming?
If it's as good as this, I want it on the big screen, but I also understand that they want content to boost Hulu, so maybe Predator becomes like a Hulu thing. You know, Netflix has a couple of franchises they're trying to build out. Make Predator the Hulu thing.
Yeah, good call. Good call. We'll see what happens. Well, we will take this thing home now, kids. Chris, give me your last word on Prey.
My last word is that if you like any of the Predator movies, or if you like science fiction stories, if you like tense movies, if you like movies about strong female characters, like it fits all of those perfectly. Prey is absolutely a movie that I tell everybody who I know hasn't seen it, like, take a minute and watch it. It's really good.
Yeah, 100% agree. Definitely worth your time, kids. If you've not watched it, we just ruined the whole thing for you. So maybe you should have went back to the beginning and not hit play and just save it. But if you have watched it and you know exactly what we're talking about, hopefully you enjoyed it as much as we did. Stay tuned for more. We'll see what happens with this franchise moving forward. But in the meantime, that is Prey.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.